The little camera. Yeah, I sent him the.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you so far.
Okay, Jamin, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Good evening. Sorry we're running late. We were having difficulties on this side. So we're going to go ahead and get this council study session for Tuesday, November 28th, 2023 at 6:12 p.m. Welcome to the audience tonight. So we're going to go ahead and move on to number 2, old business. Did you all get your agenda for the evening, Jamin and Bill?
Yes, I received one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Jamin, thank you. Okay, Jamin, we're going to go ahead and open the floor to you for discussion of the chlorine injection.
Sure. Sounds good. So, we've discussed this a few times over the last year. The city has some ongoing issues with the operation of the chlorine equipment. There are a few different ways to solve that or potentially take a step towards solving that. And at times it's caused the city to have to hire some different contractors to come repair things. It's typically worst in the summer because of the heat. And it gets better in the winter. Your city staff has worked hard to address it and kind of baby the situation along to maintain it, to keep the system running. But there are some improvements which could be made that would help it run better. You have kind of 3 options that we've provided costs on over the last few months. The first is the one that I think you have in front of you in your packet today, and that would essentially take the equipment that the city purchased previously and install it. And that would add a carrier water system so that instead of the concentrated hypochlorite being pumped all the way to the injection location, you would have city water, serving as a carrier. So it'd be a lower concentration, should have less chlorine volatilizing in the line because it's a lower concentration and it's moving faster, and thereby lead to less of the airlocking issues that they've had from the hypo. City's already purchased the equipment a couple years ago for this improvement. You have a cost from the contractor in front of you. That is what we call a time and materials cost. It means he's not exactly sure how much it's going to cost until he gets into it. So he put a number out there. If it takes him less to do the work, he'll charge you less. If it takes a little more, he'll charge you a little more. I think he tried to be a little bit conservative with his number, meaning it's a little on the high side. He just doesn't know how involved it's going to be. And so, to protect you guys and to protect him, he has to kind of shoot for a middle number, right? And so that would be their cost to install it. He gave us that number a while back, so it might be a little bit higher now, given inflation, but it should be relatively close to that. There are a few other alternatives that the city has considered. Moving the hypochlorite system closer to the injection point, or installing hypochlorite injection equipment at all of the well sites. I provided cost estimates for those previously, and both of those options were around $150,000. 140, 150,000 for those. They would require a little bit more engineering, a little bit more trenching. They have their benefits, but they would be a little bit more expensive. While this first alternative would essentially, operate very much within the context of what the city already has in the ground. So those are kind of the 3 options that have been looked at recently. I think definitely there's a benefit to the city of moving forward with this. I think my understanding from talking to city staff is that the hypochlorite, as the temperatures have come down, the system's running better. They've been able to maintain a constant chlorine residual, but it seems like every summer as the temperature goes up, that causes more volatilization of the hypochlorite in the lines, and in the dosing line, which leads to airlocking, which leads to, then there's no dosing and the residual goes down, and there are other water quality issues, and you're kind of doing this chasing the high, the residual where it airlocks, you're not getting any chlorine in the system. So the residual comes down, you start to smell the other stuff in the water. Then, and to fix it, they have to turn it up to balance it out. And then you can get a little bit of a high chlorine residual. And that is kind of an unpleasant taste and smell as well. And city staff's done a great job trying to manage the situation. But it would be great to, install the carrier water system and hopefully get a system that runs more smoothly, even in the summer. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know we've talked about this a few times over the last year.
The number that you gave us was 33,265 with 20 cents. And I believe that was the price that was given in 2021, if I'm correct. Jamin?
I think that they updated their cost. I think that cost was, they gave us a cost, they updated it earlier this year. Let me pull up, I don't remember if there's a date on that. You see a date on that estimate? Because I know I circled back and asked for an updated cost for him just because of how much inflation has occurred. Let me see if I see a date stamp on his estimate here. I don't, but I believe that this is the one he gave us earlier this year.
Okay. And then the second
I
one
think
was,
his previous one was like high 20s. But I'm pulling it up to make sure in my email. And again, it's a time and materials. So he's not saying it will be exactly that number. He's saying it'll be around that number based on the hours it takes him to do the work. Yeah, here we go. Yes, that's the current number. And that's the number he gave us in July.
Okay.
So there shouldn't be too much more inflation from them. So you'll notice on there he has possible electrician on there for 7,500. That's where it's going to require a little bit of electrical work. He's not sure how involved, so he put a number on there. If it's less than that, then he'll charge proportionately less. If it's a little more, he'll have to charge a little more. But the reason for that is just, if he didn't know exactly what he's getting into and he was going to have to be bound by the exact number, he would have put an even higher cost. And so this is essentially his best guess at what it will cost him. And if there's savings, he'll share those with the city.
second estimate was for 150. So if we move the system closer to the
Yes.
I don't know, what do you call it, like the manhole?
Yeah, to the vault, the injection vault. Yeah, our
Mhm.
estimate, it was a little under 150. I think it was in like 147-ish range. I also did an estimate for the cost of adding chlorine equipment at the individual well sites, and completely shifting to dosing at the wells. There'd been some interest in that around 150. I think it was like 149,000. Those, again, the difference is those are just engineering estimates, not bids, right? We'd have to do some design work before we could even bid that, versus what you have in front of you, which is the actual bid from the contractor to install the equipment.
This will help the odor that we are getting in the summer when the hot days are really heated.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you.
I said, is this system gonna help when we have our hot days with the odor?
It should, in as much as it will keep your chlorine residual constant. So what's happening right now is you're dosing chlorine, but this chlorine likes to volatilize, right? It likes to make bubbles. And so when it gets warmer, as that's getting pumped over to the point where you inject it in your water, it tends to put off some bubbles, and then it gets air bubbles in there that lock it up, so that it can't push any in. So then your chlorine residual in the potable water drops. And then that's why then you start to smell some of the other odors. When you maintain a constant chlorine residual, it doesn't going to eliminate the other smells, but it does cut down on them some. It does cut some of those smells and is useful for that. And so I think, based on the kind of correlations we've seen over the last few years, typically when there's issues with this system, you start to get more complaints about the odor of the water, you know, the rotten egg smell, some of that, because the chlorine cuts some of that smell out. You know, does that explain everything the city's experienced this year? Probably not. But that is certainly plays a role. And when the chlorine system seems to be running better, it seems like there are less complaints about the smell of the water. So a long way to say yes, it probably should help with that. Either way, it will help with the city maintaining a better, more consistent chlorine residual. You know, not getting the low residual or the high residual, but staying right in the middle where it's you know, best operation.
If we want to do the 33,000 or do the one that's closer to 150, then that would be moving the system closer to the volt, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Which I think Joe and Jamin have talked about that, and I think that one benefited the city a lot more than the 33,000, if I'm correct, Jamin?
I think that the benefits are, I mean, for my opinion, I think the benefits are roughly the same. So I mean, if it were me, I would go with the cheaper option.
Think so?
But if you guys want to do the more expensive options, or city staff or operations staff want to do it, well, we'll help you do that. But I would be inclined to go with the cheaper, the least cost option, and see if you can, you know, operate within your existing system.
I think because when I did talk to Joe, he thought it would be easier if it was closer for the injection of the chlorine, if it was moved closer to the volt, is what my understanding was.
Yeah, no, I mean, and there would certainly be benefit. For me personally, I'm not sure it's worth the cost increase. I'm not sure and I think that Joe, you know, my conversations with Joe, I think Joe appreciated that. You know, he and I talked through the options. But you know, my job is to give you guys options. You're the ones that have to decide how to spend the money. So if you want to do a more expensive option, you know, for some additional benefit. But you know, I'm not sure that in the end the benefit will be that different. You know, if the system operates the way it should, you know, you kind of solve the problem one way or the other. I'm certainly happy to talk through the pros and cons more if you would like.
And then we'll bring it back at 7 o'clock. Okay, thank you, Jamin.
You
They have
bet.
no questions, so we'll bring it back at 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and go on to new discussions, new business on number 3. A discussion of Employee Wellness Day in July. So Wellness Day is taking a day in July for the employees that we did last year. That employees did go this year as well with the chief. And it's just a day to get out of the office. And from my understanding, I wasn't able to attend this year, but it's not just a day of being in the park. They're kind of talking about things that go on in the city, what we can make better in the city. And just because, like, when we have our staff meetings in the morning, we have them at 7, and sometimes they go an hour and a half, but we have to cut them at a certain time because you know, everybody has to get back to the office. So I know at this last one, there was subjects of, you know, things that could be better in the city, you know, what we can do to better it, things like that. So we are asking for a wellness day in July, even if it's not a full day, even if it's like from 12, taking 12 to, you know, the rest of the day off.
What I see with it is it brings everybody together. So you're, you know, because a lot of times the police department may not interact a lot with the public works, and the idea is to bring everybody together. We all work for the same city, and it's more like a retreat type of thing. And the idea is to get us all together so we're all, you know, shooting for the same goals and trying to work well with each other. That's the biggest thing.
So I know that, I did call, the MSRC, and they told me that we're able to do it. It just needed to be brought to council and to get, the okay. And it would be one day, in July. And it, like I said, if we want, we could do the whole day. If not, everyone can come into work at regular time, but we want at least close the city by 12. You know, and
They said it was okay for me, it's fine, half a day.
you know, so if you have any questions, you know. But, you know,
About having it in town, that way, something, water breaks or something, we're all close by. Something like that.
well, I mean, even at that, if something were to come up, you know, we leave a number on the door, they can call. And if it needs to do with, Public Works, then one of the guys can come. No, we don't have alcohol. At the two that was, did you have alcohol at this last one? Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I wasn't there, Vera. I stayed in the office. Was there alcohol, chief? Okay. Well, I wasn't there, so I can't say, I'll bring it to their attention tomorrow. Recently?
No, it was a few years back, but the guy answered the phone and he'd been in a barbecue. City truck.
Okay, so we have two actually on call. So we have, and we did this just a couple of weeks ago, where we have one on call, and if he's not able to come out for some reason, then we do the second call. And we let them know they are not to be drinking while they're on call, because if they need to come out, then they have to come out. And if they're intoxicated, I will send them in to get a test. And then that will be their job. They're done. So, you know, I'm really trying to let them know that we're not going to be tolerating that on the job. Okay, so we'll bring that back at the 7 o'clock. And we're going on to B, which would be discussion of a combining study session and council meetings together. Starting at 6 o'clock, we would be doing everything together. I went to the mayor's meeting last week, and that's what a lot of cities are doing now. They're going away with the study session and a council. They're now combining them. So I think that would be something good we could do instead of like 6 o'clock and we just do like a 10-minute meeting and then boom, we have to wait, you know, 45 minutes before the next meeting, where we can start at 6 and then maybe do a 5-minute break right there and then start the meeting, you know. And that way we can in and out, you know, we don't have to wait till 7 o'clock for the next meeting. I mean, we've had meetings that are 10 minutes long and at 6 o'clock and we have to wait till 7. So, you know, if you guys have any questions on that. No? Oh, okay, all right. Okay, we'll bring that back to B and then you guys can vote on that. We're going to go ahead and do C, discussion of new city hall operating hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and from 8:30 to 4:30, starting January 1st, 2024. So the city hall would be open, but we just want to close the doors at 4:30. Reason being is that we need to make sure that the girls are getting their money counted and out by 5 o'clock because there's too much overtime. We're going into overtime when they're staying at 5:30, 5:40, trying to count that money out. Because with 5 cents, and I think we had something happen, 5 cents, 10 cents, you have to find it. We cannot let it go. I think we got a red flag 2 weeks ago. yeah, the system red flagged us for just a little bit, couple of pennies or something. So I know Grace was here till like 6:20, 6:30, trying to find it because we have to find it that night. Can't wait till the next day. And unfortunately, Yuli wasn't here and to help her, but she was able to get it. But you know, those are the things that we need to have the money counted at least by 5 and doors closed by 5. You know. Yeah, we do. Mhm. Yep. Yeah. Larry has his lunch, then one of the girls will go, that one will go, somebody else goes. I believe it was closed today, for training. Yeah, and because Yuli was gone, but, for the most part, it's been open. Yeah. Yep. And when it's just like 2 people, usually they'll ask me, can we close, you know, and I'll be, okay, you know, there's just 2 in the office, go ahead. But for the most part, it's been open during lunch. Okay. So that would be the operating hours would be, I know we open at 8, phones start ringing, we answer them at 8. Doors open at 9, we close them at 4:30. And they would still, the girls would still be there till 5 o'clock. Well, actually, Public Works came to me today while Union was here, and they want to go into doing 10-hour days, Monday through Friday, because there is other cities that do it. And I asked Union, and they're like, yeah, there's cities that are doing it. And I guess just because they want to be able to have longer weekends. And I asked the girls if they were interested, and the girls are not interested. The office is not interested. But I know the guys were interested in that. But they knew that they would still be on call. Whoever's on call for that weekend. So if we have an emergency on Friday, that person would have to come in. Just like if it was, you know, if they worked up to Friday. They would be Monday through Thursday, and then that was give them their 40 hours. That would give them their 40 hours. They would have Friday off. Well, we go into overtime.
I know, but if you have a call out,
Yeah,
and
but
nobody is on in the city, then you're gonna pay for call out.
we have to pay for it anyway, because
On the
they're,
weekend,
yeah.
But I.
so,
You either rotate. 40 hours, rotate them. 40 hours the first part, and then maybe some of them then switch it.
Yeah.
And they still have long weekend once in a while.
yeah, I just, Joe had just messaged me this evening before I came. So they already had held a meeting in between the guys, because that was their union rep, did tell them, we need to have a meeting with them. Joe needed to have a meeting with them, see if they all voted on it and take the vote. And he reached out to me that they took the vote and they want to do the Monday through Thursday, come in early, you know, and work till 5. And then whoever's on call that weekend will be on call Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the 3 days. So that's something to think about.
If they're on call, they're not gonna take 2 or 3 hours to get here.
No, because we've already had that discussion with them in the union.
Because I don't know for that, if you're gonna be off that, they need to be here that hour.
Yeah, no, and we had a discussion with that when we were negotiating. When did we have negotiations last month? Or yeah, we had negotiations. We were in negotiations a day and a half, and that was one of the things that was brought up because it had come up since then, and we did let the union know that we didn't have a problem. I'd have to bring it to council when it kind of came up, but that we needed someone for sure, you know, and that's when the rep said, well, go on to the second call, but you know, the first call should be picked up no matter what. So
How did they get called out very often, like in a year's time, Hop, were they called out?
I think Joe has been here maybe 3 times, if that.
What if you have some guys start Monday through Thursday and then a couple other guys start Tuesday through Friday, and then you got the whole week covered? kind of split them
I
up.
mean, I can talk to the guys. Like I said, they did this on their own this afternoon while I was gone. I got the message. So, I can, talk to them. So we have the furthest ones in Toppenish. But, but for something like that, we do have someone here in town that, So, I mean, if we had to call him out to be out there, that would be the one we would call, and I would, let him know. Are they checking your man? Yeah, I think Joe said he was. I just wanted to know because I know Oscar keeps an eye out. Okay, then he's checking it. Yeah. Just one. Yeah, just one. And usually if I'm not in City Hall on Fridays, they do message me at 5 o'clock, whoever's on call.
They do come to that little house every day.
Yeah.
And that. There. So we were in
Our guidelines for safety. Depending on what.
Yeah, depending on what it is. And I think the only thing that I've only been called, I know of that I can think of, the top of my head, the 2 years, a call out on a Saturday. They wanted their water turned on and they called Joe and I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Sorry. No, we're not doing it. People think, oh, well, we're coming from out of town. We need our water on. We're going to be working on that property. Well, you need to let us know on Friday because we're not going to pay overtime for one of our city workers to come and turn somebody's water on. And so, so I know we've had that issue and that's the only one that he's called me on, to be honest. Okay. So those are things that you guys want to think about. Any more questions? Any more questions? Okay, we're going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 6:38.